WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. With over 350 restaurants to choose from, Bloomington, Indiana is truly a food lover's paradise. Go to visitbloomington.com to discover what suits your taste.
This is WFYI News Now. It's January 29th, and I'm Darian Benson. On today's show, a bill that could impact how faith-based teaching ends up in public schools, what tech manufacturing could do for the state's economy, and toxic leaks at a refinery in northwest Indiana have reportedly caused headaches, dizziness, and general malaise for people in the area.
What are they picking up? Why did they call the authorities on this? And why was the public not alerted?
Those stories coming up, but first, Statehouse bills to protect citizens against large, potentially harmful water withdrawals are likely dead. As Ben Thorpe reports, the legislation aimed to create a permitting process for withdrawals as the state considered using a pipeline to move water from Tippecanoe County to an industrial project in Lebanon.
Tippecanoe County officials passed an ordinance last year to block the state's proposed pipeline, saying they hoped bills to put guardrails in place would pass during the 2024 legislative session. Republican Senator Spencer Deary introduced one of those bills. He says the legislation is unlikely to get a hearing.
The argument is, we can afford to wait and to get more information and then decide what's going to be needed. That's not particularly satisfying to many, if not most, in our community.
Governor Eric Holcomb met with regional officials last year and told them that the pipeline project would not move forward without a completed water study and legislative approval. Deary said that the language of his bill could still be inserted into other legislation. I'm Ben Thorpe.
Public schools may soon be required to let students attend religious instruction. Kirsten Adair reports proposed legislation intends to make it easier for parents to work with schools so children can receive faith-based teaching during the school day.
The bill would require principals to collaborate with parents and religious education groups to decide the best time for students to receive religious instruction during school hours. The religious teaching would take place off school property and would require private transportation for the student. No state money would be used. Joel Penton is founder and CEO of LifeWise Academy, an Ohio-based organization that offers release-time religious education. He says the popularity of programs like his are growing because parents want faith-based education options for their children.
We think all Indiana parents should have the choice to enroll their students.
Students must be in good academic standing and cannot be habitually truant in order to participate. The House Education Committee passed the bill unanimously. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Kirsten Adair.
U.S. Senator Todd Young says he's pleased to see Indiana embrace tech manufacturing projects like a new semiconductor plant in southwest Indiana. As Stephanie Weekman reports, a Ball State University economist says this specific kind of manufacturing is better for the state's economy.
It's no secret that Indiana is the most manufacturing-heavy state economy in the country, and that a state that relies on the demand for goods is more volatile. That's why Todd Young is championing bringing more versatile manufacturing to Indiana with a federal investment act he co-sponsored, like a microchip packaging facility in Davies County.
Packaging will allow the stacking of these microchips on top of one another. Very few people can do it, and even fewer can do it well. We're going to do it well.
Ball State economist Michael Hicks says goods like microchips and semiconductors that can be used in many more applications than, for example, cars or RVs, will help Indiana's economy become more productive and more stable.
So the other one is they pay a lot better. They anticipate you had a bachelor's degree or near a bachelor's degree, but they pay $100,000 to $130,000 a year for line jobs, and that's a very different type of manufacturing than I think most Hoosiers have in their heads.
Hicks says Indiana won't see manufacturing job growth, though. It will see these new jobs replace more of Indiana's historic factory positions. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Stephanie Weekman.
And for our final story today, tank leaks at BP's Whiting Refinery in northwest Indiana sent toxic pollution into the air for the past 2 weeks. Residents reported headaches, dizziness, and general malaise. Rebecca Thiel reports the leaks come as activists advocate for a stricter permit for the refinery.
The Indiana Department of Environmental Management suspects cold temperatures on the 18th caused a valve to freeze and crack. The agency says that sent cancer-causing benzene and hydrogen sulfide, which can harm your lungs, into the air. A second leak was from a liquefied natural gas tank on Tuesday, emitting even more hydrogen sulfide. Susan Thomas with Just Transition Northwest Indiana says there are 2 air monitors at the Whiting Refinery, and the public has a right to be informed when these incidents happen.
What are they picking up? Why did they call the authorities on this? And why was the public not alerted? Yet again, we see this repeatedly.
In June, a power outage at the refinery led to unplanned gas flaring, which also put lung-damaging pollutants into the air. Thomas says residents need to speak up about the health problems they've suffered from BP's pollution and demand IDEM issue a stricter permit. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
BP says it has contained the leaks and that the air monitors haven't shown elevated readings. IDEM will hold a public meeting about the Whiting Refinery's permit renewal on February 8th at East Chicago Central High School at 6 p.m. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by the following people who live in your community: Abriana Herron, Drew Daudelin, Kendall Antron, who composed the music for this podcast, and me, Darian Benson. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share. And follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.